Join the Paula Fiscal Show, where the people come alive, y'all. Music, news, politics, the city. La, 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 la. The Paula Fiscal Show, where the community comes alive, y'all. Music, news, the city. Yes, that's you and me. Un regalito.
Hi there, and welcome to the Paula Fiscal Show. You just heard a rendition of the opening of the song for the Paula Fiscal Show, and it was originated by Francisco Herrera. Francisco, as you know, he has been a regular on this show. This show airs on Sundays at 3 o'clock p.m. We're also on Facebook and on Twitter, Paula Fiscal TV on Twitter, and the email is paulafiscalshow@gmail.com. Now, what we want to do today is we're going to go over some of the platform issues that Mr. Herrera wants to share with the community about his campaign. So once again, thank you so much for joining us. And we're going to ask Francisco his first question, as he was the runner-up for the mayoral election in November 2015 in San Francisco with ranked choice voting. Ranked choice voting will also take place for the supervisorial election that will take place in November of 2016. Thank you so much for being with us, Francisco.
I'm very happy to be with you, Paula. And I saw the program also on YouTube, so it's available there.
There you
so
go.
It's available there. Paula, thanks for having me here on the show, and I'm very happy to share this song with you about the Paula Fiscal Show. San Francisco is such a wonderful place of creativity, and we have the ability to make these kind of shows. What we have found out is so much more now, Paula. People are engaging in alternatives. Folks are really tired of the same old. When something feels just, okay, I've heard that already once too many times, I think we're in that period in time that people really want to respond and really want responsive politics to what's going on in their neighborhoods. So for our campaign, continues to be the issue of housing, protecting from evictions, preventing the destruction or more loss of housing for working people, and 3, producing housing for working people that are here. We're seeing it very much in the Excelsior, where a lot of people are not declared homeless because they are able to find a relative where they're staying with, or a friend where they're staying with, or some kind of space temporarily. But we do have people who are living in their cars and youth who are going through that. So what we're working on
Protection,
is
preservation.
against evictions, preservation of the housing that exists, and promotion and creation of new housing for folks. For particularly one population that I'm very concerned about is first responders. Right now, 60% of the firefighters do not live in the city, in earthquake city, right, or earthquake region. This kind of thing, education, Paula, is one. If there's something that is important for our families that come here and work here, is their children's education. Right now, many schools, for example, that are dealing with English as second language or individual education programs, they find themselves in waiting lists where their kids cannot have the services they need at schools. Why? because over 300 teachers cannot afford to live in San Francisco. So once again, part of it is housing, but part of it is the city. As a city, we can help the school district, and I'll give you one little example in a second, reach the goals of education for our children, not just basic education, but move forward in technology like creating code. And here's the example I was going to give you. The Mission Science Project has been operating for 25 years in the mission. Thanks to community involvement, working with city, with the supervisors, working with folks in the community and the staff of Mission Science Project, they have recently acquired enough money to open now the Excelsior Science Project.
And does the money come from Google?
No, actually,
where does the money come from for this?
The money that they achieved comes from individual donations, from foundations, and from the city.
So the city is
providing
providing funds.
The city is providing funds specifically so that the children from Cleveland School, the children from our community school, from other other neighborhood schools and community organizations that live in the Excelsior are able to come to the program, which runs from 3 to 6 p.m. every day.
So how many students are going to be enrolled?
They can enroll up to 50 students, is what I understand. Right now, I think they have 20-some students that are involved.
And what's the process for enrollment?
It really is going there to 35 San Juan Street
it has to be done in person.
In person there.
In person.
With the family.
So
they do have a website, actually. It's the Excelsior, or missionscienceproject.org.
Okay, so missionscienceproject.org to enroll in this technology program. In general,
it's a science program where kids and family members can participate. So.
And you mean family members can come to the classes?
Yeah. Yeah, the staff is more than happy to talk with the parents. As a matter of fact, when I was living in the mission, and now I live in the Excelsior, I participated in those classes with Dan Sudrin and the other staff members. And it's really a wonderful place where we get the supplements of the education we're working on, yeah? And underneath the science project, which is at 35 San Juan, there's another project that deals with computers, with computer repair, with creativity, with graphic design.
And is that also a program that's run by the city?
No, that's a nonprofit, but that's a program where, as with the science project, that we as supervisors with the city, with participation of the parents and families, can actually make monies accessible to these kinds of projects, which for me is a key piece of why I'm running for supervisor. People really want someone that they can see and they say, Francisco, I know you. I've known you for many years. We've gone to the same places in the community, same worship areas, same parks, same struggles that we fought together, whether it's hotel workers or whether any of the areas. I know you. I need you in the supervisorial seat because we need to work on this together. And it's a give and take. People talk about Latinos or immigrants or folks not participating in politics, or people in general getting tired of politics. What we need is that accessibility. One idea that I have as supervisor is to actually have an office in the district where people can come. It's very interesting for politicians or political groups say, oh, well, you just have to participate. But they don't realize.
It's access. Yeah. It's access. You're talking about access.
Yeah,
who's going to take time off from work to go to City Hall to participate in a hearing, and once you get there, you hear that the hearing has been postponed or canceled and nobody notified you.
And the other thing, Paula, that's very interesting that people don't realize, those of us who are used to going to City Hall say, oh yeah, I'll go to City Hall, I'll go through the checking point by coins, and I'll get to the office, and we know the place, we walk through it. The level of intimidation that people experience,
that's right,
is tremendous.
It's an intimidating process.
It really is.
And it keeps people from participating.
It does. So that's where one of the things that we're conducting house meetings or meetings in the community, going directly to the community, Sure, it's to get to know people and shake hands, but it really is what that shaking of a hand or what talking with people provides for you is really the sense, okay, government is accessible to me. I come from places where government was either too corrupt or simply was not accessible to me. And this is a place where, okay, there's the supervisor. I know him, and I can actually tell him this is what's happening, and we have to create the monitoring. So it said, did this happen to you, Mrs. Jones, Mrs. Gonzalez, Mr. Peters?
So what we're talking about here is access to the local process, access to the amount of time that you can have with the supervisor. Do you call him? Do you text him? Do you write him a letter? Do you track him down on his scheduling? Are the schedules now public?
At this point, they're not public, but well, they are public.
I thought I had seen something that there was supposed to be a public schedule, but the president of the board, London Bree, decided she didn't want her schedule to be public, and I don't know what happened to that.
Well, here's the thing. There are things that are public, but still not accessible to people. That they've told me there's supposed to be a number for this department, that department. I go into the city website and I don't see a number. So this is kind of internal structure that we need to work on. I think we do have to have at least a good portion of our schedule public. Because if people don't know when you're going to be there,
or where you're going to be for an event, for example.
Exactly.
But the way that this happens is it's done as part of the process of your being supported or not supported. So when people say that they're going to support you, you go on an email list.
Mm-hmm.
You have to have an email so that they can notify you as to what their next event is, what's taking place, what the process is. And you have an email.
No, yes, I do. It's Francisco Herrera 001 @gmail.com right now. That's what it is. Francisco Herrera, HERRERA 001 @gmail.com. And that one is about events, but the other thing that we're getting on the email and phone number, which is 415-812-9362, is, Francisco, this is happening right now. I know my brother or X person is facing possible eviction. Who do I talk to? Okay, let's call the center, the eviction protection groups.
And this eviction protection group is not just for residential, it's for commercial properties also?
No, for homes.
Only homes.
I say eviction protection because there's various groups to work with. The committee to prevent evictions, and there's groups to work with, and you have to find out where are you at. People coming out of Epiphany Church or Corpus Christi, or the folks involved in towards the end of the Excelsior District and the M3 program that works with men with violence or violence prevention, or these kinds of groups.
And earlier you were talking about how in the past 4 years there have been over 5,000 evictions in San Francisco?
Yeah, it's been a tremendous number of what's happening.
Is that double of what it normally is? A triple of what it normally is?
It's more than double. And it has to do with the lack of planning that has gone on. And this is precisely what we're talking about. That's why we started talking about planning and looking at what we need as San Franciscans. How many people right now really are facing homelessness? How many, like the number that we know, how many people can't live in the city, that work in the city, that should walk? For one issue that's happening with janitors right now, and a lot of our people that live in the Excelsior are involved with either service work, janitorial work. You have a situation where some of the schedules are forcing janitors to work till 1 a.m. And some of these janitors can no longer afford to live here. They've had to move to Richmond, to Oakland, and further beyond. BART only runs till 12 o'clock. So at this point, we need a 24-hour BART. Yeah.
A 24-hour BART, that sounds like a really good idea. Would that have to go through the city, or would it have to go through the BART system? Or do we have to look at the state?
No, this is a regional thing that needs to be addressed in the region. Probably looking at the state will help in terms of the structures, but it's really a regional piece. The other thing that I think goes to our hope, which is livability. That's our goal, livability, which is not just affordable housing, but livability means like a muni where you don't have to pay at the door. We've already paid. You know, we talk about free muni, and we're all in favor of free muni, but free muni it puts a situation where you're thinking, oh, no one's paying, and that's not true. We've paid. So if you're paying at the door, it's double dipping.
So
You know,
we've paid, meaning that we're paying our taxes,
yeah, we've paid through our
that we're paying
taxes.
our parking tickets,
Yeah,
that
exactly.
we're paying
Yeah.
we're paying sales tax.
Yeah.
Do we get a portion of that sales tax that goes to the transportation fund?
Well, what happens is that when we're paying through the taxes and the different forms, it goes to work for Muni to work. So when you're paying at the door, you're actually double dipping. So you're paying
Well,
twice.
we're not double dipping. The city is double dipping
No,
to get.
the user.
So the user, well,
Is-
no, the user is paying twice for
Right,
something.
that's what I
The
mean by
user
double
is,
dipping.
is paying twice.
Oh, I see. I'm using
Right,
the wrong term.
right.
Yeah, but the
So we're
user
paying double.
twice,
We're paying double. Right.
Exactly. And accessible Muni makes life a little bit more livable. Yeah. Small businesses.
Well, what
get-
about Uber? I thought Uber was supposed to be taking the place of Muni. They're,
Uber, all this, I'm not sure.
Or
about
Lyft.
Uber. Well, I think that's at least what I'm seeing with some of the folks. It seems like a temporal relief, but after a while, those Uber and Lyft drivers really aren't. It's not really working for them. What's working, for example, if we're talking about this new economies, is the bus drivers of these big corporations that are now getting organized to get a living wage.
to get a living wage.
So
that
that's
that would be, and it would be interesting also if when they stopped at our bus stops and they weren't full, they could pick up some of our people and move them to the next stop.
Exactly. And instead of $3 per stop at the bus where the corporations are paying, they should be paying more like $20 or $200. Or, you know, these big corporations have become kind of welfare cheats where they're getting a lot of little breaks here and there, and they're making millions, billions, you know. And so in a way, we have to look at,
Well, maybe that's something that you can put on the ballot.
I believe
Because
so.
there is a lot of dissatisfaction among residents as they see the corporations
Yeah.
coming in and using our streets, using our facilities,
Exactly.
and really not compensating, although they say they do compensate the city with their sales taxes.
Well, there's another place where they haven't met to their commitments, which is the community benefits agreements that many of these corporations, a lot of people in our community are working some of these jobs, and corporations have made commitments to up to 40% of local hire.
Well, who's in charge of that monitoring? You're
Well-
saying, you're talking about community benefits agreements.
Just as some of the groups that are supporting labor, Gordon's group over here with Community Justice, are actually monitoring some of these things, and some of the corporations have met some of the agreements. But what I'm saying, instead of identifying one little one, in general, we need to make sure that that happens so that we have livability. So it's not just a matter of housing. I think, to go back to the point, our families in the Excelsior and throughout the city are concerned about their kids getting a good education, about those of us that have to retrain ourselves, whether it's youth or young adult or adults, learning to do tasks and jobs that meet today's demands, which have to do with code, writing, and technical stuff. And when we're involved in issues like the janitorial work, like hotel and restaurant work, it's livability is a living wage, not just the minimum wage of the federal or state, but an actual living wage where we can meet the needs of high cost of living here in San Francisco, Paula. Very important.
And on the Living Wage Coalition, is that the one that you work with? The Living Wage
yeah.
Coalition? Their activities, they're always promoting new legislation.
Yeah, and right now they've been working very hard on getting the $15 per hour as the living wage of the city, and getting the folks really to work together with service workers, not just the traditional organizing that's been going on, but the folks working at the McDonald's and the Burger Kings and these other places to be able to work together. This is creating issues where, once again, when there is access, we can actually meet needs because we meet one to one. I was at a meeting with, for example, the Rooftop Elementary, which is not in the Excelsior but has parents from the Excelsior. We had a great meeting, Parent Square, they called it, no? And it was wonderful to see the director, the principal of the school, come to the Excelsior, meet right there next to Café Mama, and actually bring the parents together and look at the issues that they need to address. Issues of cultural diversity, where one group needs to explain to another and meet together. Issues of accessibility for the parents to participate in the education of their kids. Because we have a situation where parents want to come and participate, but if they have 2 or 3 jobs, that it ends up becoming
that's not going to happen. It's not going to happen.
It's the older sister, the grandma.
That's right.
And
the extended family that actually participates in the educational process for students. You're talking about English as a second language. Didn't I just read that Unified School District is going to introduce Chinese as a second language?
Yes, that is so.
And not Cantonese, but Mandarin.
Well, the thing, yeah, that's always been an issue. No, it's really interesting because folks are really Cantonese being more of a spoken language, and then comes the other group of folks that are saying, well, Mandarin is really the national Chinese language. But I personally, I just feel like we need to work from where we're at. So not to use for example, right now, Cantonese is where a lot more people are speaking Cantonese. And I think that creates a kind of sense where we know each other and we speak. And yeah, okay, let's build on Mandarin, but not use Cantonese to jump to Mandarin, but rather respect Cantonese for what it is and for what it's been used. Same thing happens in Spanish with the bilingual programs. They use Spanish as a stepping stone instead of creating real bilingual education where kids are coming out of the schools speaking Spanish and English. But if
that's another term. That's Spanglish.
No. Well, Spanglish
that's
is
what
we all speak at home.
That's what we grew up with.
And at the store. We all have to speak Spanglish at the store. But what I'm saying with bilingual education is that many of these programs are false programs because they don't go to the mother tongue, in this case Spanish or let's say Cantonese. They don't go to develop that so people feel comfortable and learn that structure, and then jump to the dominant language, whether it be Mandarin in this case or English when we're talking English Spanish or Chinese Spanish, Cantonese English. They usually just use the mother language as a stepping stone. I think that's really wrong. I think you need to develop the mother language in its structure, and then it's much easier for kids and for adults to jump into the dominant language. So in summary, I think what's important is we're working for housing, accessibility, prevention from eviction, preservation of the housing that exists, and promotion of new housing. Education, access to education. So enough monies that the city, and as a supervisor that I can work with the other supervisors so we can create the type of budget, $9.5 billion budget, and we can move the monies to support education, like the example of supporting projects that are after school programs like the Excelsior Science Project. And the other area that we can talk about next time has to do with health, no? Because health is not just about getting your medicines. Health is really the structure, like living wages, like clean parks, like enough parking, or some
exactly. You wanted to talk about transportation issues.
Transportation. These issues that make life in San Francisco livable. We're not. It's so stressed out, but actually can enjoy the beautiful city that we're creating and that we've created, no? And one of these big pieces has to do with music. That's why I'm working on the...
We'll talk a little bit about your music and how many CDs you have.
And I have 7 CDs at this point, and that's my profession has been music, and it's been music and education. So I've been thoroughly involved in the city and city politics, because the work that I do is not just singing in one place or another, or a restaurant or a club. It's actually been using music in the form of working with mental health, working with schools and education, working with parents, working in politics, working with community organizing and labor organizing. That's where my music has taken place.
And I heard you had a big event last month.
Last month
Very
we had
successful. You had even Dr. Loco made an appearance.
That's right. Dr. Loco made an appearance with his saxophone. We had Dr. Ricardo Carrillo, who was born and raised here in San Francisco, who's now a wonderful worker in mental health. Did a beautiful love song as well. And it was an event called Amor, celebrating the romantic experience and the love of neighborhood and friends.
And that was done as a nonprofit, right? And the name of the group is?
Trabajo Cultural Caminante, and it was done as a nonprofit. It was done at Patio Español, a wonderful place in the Excelsior district that provides beautiful space and great serving and great food. It was good. And that is very much a key of what we're doing, so involving the culture.
Okay, so once again, we want to thank you for joining the Paula Fiscal Show. We do air on Sundays at 3 o'clock p.m. We want to thank Francisco Herrera, who has been a regular guest on my show. So we do want you to stay informed. By all means, if you have a topic that you'd like to hear more about, paulafiscal@gmail.com. Thank you for joining us.
The Paula Fiscal Show, where the community comes alive, y'all. Music, news, the people, you and I. Turn it on.